Hello everybody, my name is Sniping is Fun, and I welcome all of you back to my next The 5 list. We're sent to all of you here on YouTube, and today's list is going to be yet another fighting game oriented list. There are more lists coming that aren't fighting game oriented, but this one I was able to easily put together. So if you want to see more of the 5 lists from me that are not fighting game oriented, which a lot of them have been, I'm sorry about that. It's just like I'm so used to talking about like fighting games and RPGs and stuff like that. So it's like lately they've been a lot of fighting game lists, and there are more coming that are not fighting game oriented, that are going to be anime and wrestling and other video game related stuff. So stay tuned for that. For all you fighting games out there, this is fighting game fans out there, this is another list for you, and one that I think you all would like to hear about, see my opinions on, and speak in the comment section what you guys think. And this is going to be the 5 fighting game franchises that need to make a return, that need to be revived. And fighting games, since the dawn of creation of video games, with the fighting game genre starting with like Street Fighter and Urban Champion and whatnot, even though it technically wasn't a fighting game. You know, the fighting games, we've had a million fighting games over the years. A lot of them have stuck around, like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and, you know, King of Fighters and stuff like that. But there's a lot of fighting games out there, a lot of fighting game franchises out there that have come, stayed around a bit and went, or maybe they just had one entry and just fell off the face of the earth and never made a return and stuff like that. There's been a lot of fighting game franchises over the years that have, you know, they haven't stuck around like a Soul Calibur or a Tekken or a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat or a Blaze Blue or a King of Fighters and stuff like that. And a lot of fighting games, you know, have kind of died out and haven't been used in a while. So it's like there is a lot of choices to pick from on this list. And when I was doing my research, there's some I chose some of the basic choices that a lot of fighting game fans out there would, you know, pick, and I picked a couple that were like, you know, okay, maybe these aren't ones that a lot of people would ask for, but in terms of, you know, the fighting game genre needing some games like this for diversity, I put them in there anyways, or smaller franchises getting a second chance. But yeah, that's it. And this list is for like fighting game franchises I want to see make a comeback. And lately we've seen the fighting game genre kind of get a revival. Like, we have Injustice and Street Fighter. Soul Calibur is not coming back. Tekken's still around. Blaze Blue is kicking ass. You know, Guilty Gear is still kind of around. And you have stuff like King of Fighters still going strong. You have Dive Kick now and all these indie games like, you know, Skullgirls or whatever. And, you know, all these like different fighting game genre, I think now is in its like, next renaissance. Like, the fighting game like genre was like in a renaissance during the 90s / early 2000s. Like when you had stuff like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat going strong, and then you brought in like Rival Schools and, you know, Marvel vs. Capcom, and you had the X-Men fighting games and stuff like that. So it was a big renaissance there. But then I think the genre kind of died out during the 2000s and the early 2000s. But now with the recent generations of like, you know, the PS3, the PS4, the Wii U, the Switch, the 360, the Xbox One, you know, recent generations of gaming, the last like maybe 5 some odd years, we've seen a resurgence in fighting games, and it is, in my opinion, the next renaissance of the fighting game genre. So what a better time to bring these franchises back than when fighting games are more popular probably than almost ever. I mean, no, nothing's going to really beat the 90s, but this is as close as we're ever going to get. And as a fighting game fan, and all you fighting game fans out there, we want to see these franchises brought back. We want to see more fighting game franchises brought back, because some companies just seem to forget about stuff, or they worry about other things, or, you know, Capcom, Street Fighter, stuff like that, which makes sense because it's really hugely popular. But yeah, this is going to be before this intro goes on too long, it's been about like 4 minutes now, the 5 fighting game franchises that need to be revived, that need to be brought back, that need to make a return. And my first one goes to an obvious choice from Capcom that everyone wants to see, and basically I want to see it too, and I haven't even played one of the games in the series, and it just looks so fun. And that goes to Power Stone. Power Stone is not a traditional 2-on-2 or 1-on-1 or 2D or 3D, whatever fighting game like a Street Fighter or a Tekken. It's more of an arena fighting head game, similar to like a Smash Brothers, but, you know, like an actual 3D arena that you're like a top-down, like corner diagonal view. You get items. You can use items to power yourself up. There's ultimate forms, and it's fighting. It's like more of a party fighter, more of a like an arcadey, crazy type arena fighter. So it's not a straight-up traditional fighter like a lot of fighting game franchises are. but it's original and different. It's like it has all these wacky cool characters like Edward Felk and all this like this tournament, like world tournament type thing where all these characters are from like America and Japan and Britain and India and everything. All these cool wacky characters that represent different nationalities and parts of the world. Just cool crazy characters, and it's a different fighting game than what you usually see nowadays, like an Injustice or a Blaze Blue or a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat. Crazy, wacky characters, cool movesets, items, do just wacky, crazy, arcadey, arena battling fun. And I think Capcom should start tackling more of their franchises than just sticking with Street Fighter and the occasional Mario vs. Capcom. And this is one a lot of fans want to see brought back just for the diversity of it, because like there is diversity in fighting games nowadays, more so than there ever probably has been, but there still could be more when they bring franchises like this back into fruition. Like they used to have this franchise. There's like 2 of these on like the Dreamcast. So Capcom, reminder, Power Stone is what some of your fans want. We want to see this brought back. My second one goes to a fighting game franchise that had 2 entries on the Nintendo 64, which a lot of people don't really, relate to fighting games, but it did have about a good 4 or 5, and there were some decent ones, and I'm not just talking about Smash Brothers. And this franchise I've talked about before, and I grew up with the second entry in the game. I partially tried playing the first one. I never got into the franchise when the first one was out. I went back for it later on, and the cartridge just didn't work for me, and I want to still find it. And that goes to Fighter's Destiny. It was basically the N64's it was basically the N64's type of like a Tekken / virtual fighter type, fighting game, like an arena, a traditional fighter in an arena that had some sort of like everyone knew their own style. There was like no one that was like super over, except like super over the top of like super special beam attacks and everything. Outside of maybe a couple of special characters and wackiness, like Tekken with a cow playable character and a Joker clown type character. But it was more of a traditional fighter that every character in the game had their own fighting style, their own different martial arts or type of fighting style, and it was more like strategic. It was like a point-based system fighter, like, okay, you won by takedown, you won by beating their life out, you won by knocking them out of the arena, you won by making them tap out, type of thing. Like, it was an arena, and it was like a traditional, like, 3D type fighter that had, like, a point-based system and basically, like, what you see, like, in a karate competition and stuff like that, like, a points-based fighting system, and I thought it was pretty freaking cool. And yes, a lot of characters are like, parodies and rip-offs of like a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or whatever type character going on at the time. But it was a pretty damn fun game, and I remember playing the second one a whole heck of a lot, and it had such wacky, cool, unique characters with all their unique fighting styles, kind of like a Tekken. And it's like the point-based system was different because you never really saw that in many fighting games. And it's like you can adjust it. Okay, an out-of-the-ring thing takes like 5 points, or you can basically adjust how many points you have to win and how many points a takedown takes, or an out-of-the-ring, or a tap out, or a knockout, or some crazy wacky thing. And it's just like if you guys out there have actually played either of the Fighter's Destiny games, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you talk about saying like this would at least be a unique fighting game to bring back, because it would differentiate itself from like a Street Fighter or a Tekken. And that is Fighter's Destiny. The third one in this franchise is one a lot of fighting game fans want to see brought back. It's had like 4 or 5 entries around like the PlayStation 1 into the GameCube era. And I've talked about this fighting game before, and that goes to Bloody Roar. Why haven't we brought this back? This is a unique concept of all these characters that have been experimented on can turn into anthropomorphic animal creatures and just kick the crap out of each other. And it's just so awesome. People turn into tigers and birds and bears and cats and rabbits and bats and all this crazy wackiness stuff. And it's like, so technically every character almost has like a double moveset, and the special attacks as animals, special attacks as humans. It's just like this awesome game. It was almost a cult classic on the PlayStation 1, and then it was released like on the PS2 and the GameCube, and the series just kind of died off with Bloody Roar 4, and that was like 2000, like 3 or 4 or 5, somewhere in that range. It never made out of the GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2 era. And this is a fighting game that would, be so much different nowadays from your typical like Injustice or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, and it wouldn't be like a 2D fighter like King of Fighters and Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear. It's just like, it's unique fighting, and it has like these animal transforming people that just kick the crap out of each other, and it's just a unique concept, and you can do so much with that, like with different animals, like a turtle or some sort of like pig or like a mammoth or some sort of dragon, which they have done actually, I believe. And like mythological creatures and just experimental monsters like a werewolf type thing or some giant like like half dragon, half bird, lion, snake creature type thing. You can do a lot of cool things with characters from this franchise and fighting styles. And it's like, why did this like catch on and then kind of disappear? It'd be so unique nowadays with our dive kicks and our skull girls and stuff like that. Even if it, like there was supposed to be a game, I forgot what it was called, and Maximilian Dude talked about this, like because Benny was supposed to be a playable character in it, and it was like all these animal type characters. Like it was not like animal transformation type stuff, like people being experimented on turning into animal type people and creatures. But it's like this a fighter that was kind of like a tribute to that, and that never made it out of like creation. It's like, why can't we have a fighter like this that kind of is a different approach to it, and these characters transform and just kick the crap out of each other? That's all it is. And if you play the Bloody Roar game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This game series is pretty freaking awesome. My fourth one, in terms of a unique fighting game that would be totally different, even more so than the points-based system from freaking Fighter's Destiny, and I've talked about this series before, and that goes to Bushido Blade. 2 games on the PlayStation 1 that was more traditional, like sword and weapon-based combat. There were no life bars whatsoever. You had to get the killing blow on your opponent, and if you were really good, and your opponent, especially if they sucked, or if you could just break their defense, you could win the fight in seconds. You attack them in the heart. You cut their legs so they can't, walk around. They have to crawl on the ground. A very strategy-based fighting game, and I'm surprised this game series only lasted 2 entries, and now Square Enix owns the rights to this franchise, and I'm surprised they haven't tried to jump and try to make this anything else now. And it was just such a fun PlayStation 1 fighting game. I've played the original. I never got around to playing the second one, though, but the first one is pretty freaking awesome. You could pick like a hammer, different knives and blades and swords and spears and lances type stuff, and it's just really, really cool. And it's like the strategy about it's like so different. If you're not trying to beat a life bar like every other fighting game out there, you're talking about a fighting game that it's like real life combat. Like in a real life fight, if someone was using a sword, if you're really good, you can kill a person in a matter of seconds. You don't have to beat down their life bar. And it's like this game series was so cool and such an interesting take on it, especially back in the day, because this came out in the PlayStation 1, so it was near the tail end of what I meant when I talked about earlier, like that 90s fighting game renaissance. And it was standing toe-to-toe with like Darkstalkers and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Marvel vs. Capcom. And it was different enough to be able to stand in the same genre, in the same industry, and be competition for it, but not being the exact same thing. And I really think nowadays in this fighting game, we're seeing stuff like Skullgirls and Dive Kick and stuff like that. And, to have a franchise like this brought back, I really want to see Bushido Blade brought back, because it would be so much different. And just imagine all the weapons they could do now. They could break it out from like feudal Japan and samurai swords and start doing like all these other different weapons too, and different characters from weapons throughout like history. And like they even include a gun at some point, so you can do fantasy weapons probably too, just for some crazy matchup of weapons. It'd be really kind of cool. And that's my fourth one. My fifth one goes to another Capcom franchise, and this is one everyone wants to see, even probably more so than a Power Stone 3 and another Power Stone game, and that goes to Rival Schools. Why in the absolute hell have we not had another Rival Schools? It's Street Fighter in high school. These different schools go to war with each other in Japan because of whatever the hell reason they really want to. Competition between schools because Japan is super competitive and blah, 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 blah. And these people get kidnapped and killed and this evil organization, stuff like that. Like all these crazy characters like Batsu and Kyosuke, Hinata, and Sakura's from this franchise too. So it's like, I would like to actually see like a storyline than doing like a Rival Schools. Was it like 3 now? I forgot if it's around. Yeah, it's the 3rd one, I think. Or is it 4? I forgot now, because I never really played Rival Schools. Like, the storyline, have something that connects this officially, so it's like a finalizing, part of this storyline that leads into Street Fighter, so we can start seeing some more of these characters in Street Fighter. If you see my, the 5 list for 5 characters to be DLC in Street Fighter, I mentioned how Rival Schools and, like, Darkstalkers and Strider and Final Fight and Saturday Night Slam Matches are characters that, whether or not they're in the franchise, this in the continuity of like Street Fighter or not, should start showing up in Street Fighter. But in order for that to really have more of an effect, we should probably start seeing those franchises brought back. And Rival Schools is the definitive fighting game from Capcom I want to see, even more so than Power Stone, because it's like this was unique and different enough from Street Fighter, while being in the same realm of it, as not being like an arena fighter like Power Stone, for us to have something unique and different for these characters to actually be, seen again. Because not all these characters are going to show up in Street Fighter. We might be lucky to get Batsu one day, and Hinata, Kyosuke, probably Dan, Hibiki's niece, or whatever her name is, and that lady, what's her name, Akira, that rides the freaking bike and motorcycle thing. We might see some of those characters one day show up in Street Fighter, but a lot of these characters are never going to show up in Street Fighter. So please, Capcom, give us another rival school so we can see where these characters have been, maybe before they graduate and we start seeing Sakura being an arcade announcer in Street Fighter V, so the continuity and timeline can start being more filling the gaps type of thing, storyline-wise. New rival schools, Capcom. And that is my list for the 5 fighting game franchises that need to make a return. Rival schools, Power Stone, Bushido Blade, Fighter's Destiny, and freaking I'm terrible with remembering stuff now. It's late at night. Bloody Roar, Fighter's Destiny, Power Stone, Bushido Blade, Rival Schools. Put in the comments below. Do you guys agree with these 5? Do you guys want to see these 5 fighting game franchises brought back? And what fighting game franchises that I didn't mention do you particularly want to see brought back? Anything's possible in this day and age with fighting games, because we finally see Soul Calibur come back. Guilty Gear is still kind of around. I would love to see a thing for Flying Dragon. Whoever owns the rights to Flying Dragon, can we please have another Flying Dragon? And anything else. Put in the comments below, what fighting games do you particularly want to see? My name is Stephen. Please subscribe if you want to. Have fun discussing it down there, and I'll see you all later in my next video. Bye.